I
A
am
link should
going
have
to,
magically appear on Twitter. Oh, there's the Twitter link.
and I'm going to just share it as well here as well. And someone's just come in the room. Bear me a second.
Right.
Um,
Just tweeting.
tweet.
Hi everyone. Just waiting for Mark. Someone's coming in to say hello to him. I don't think it's a stranger. I think it's someone who lives in his house. So I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. I just asked the robber to leave.
Awesome. Okay. Well, ideally, we'd love this to be a bit interactive, but to start with that, I am my baby boy will not sleep, so I am really tired. So the idea of sitting down and trying to coherently write this in a way that is easily digestible, or I can't just start writing and be like, "Oh, I didn't mean that. I meant this. I didn't mean that, and I meant this." Whereas here, I can do that. So we've chosen to stream it. We probably will task one of the team with like transcripting it maybe and trying to tidy it up a little bit. I wanted to take the opportunity to basically try and explain why Brighton is cancelled, and also the changes around the future TestBashers event and why they are as they are, because we want to try and be more open, want to build in public, and the Brighton cancellation is it's an easy thing to explain, but the changes are more, I want to explain the thinking behind them and why we've done it.
Yeah. And it's important as well, I think, as we go forward, we're trying to get better at sort of just sharing things in public. So we're going to just sort of treat this as a little bit of a conversation around it all as well. And I can grill Richard for us all to ask him to explain his madness.
And before we start, this overlay, I designed this overlay, so don't be attacking Thomas for how awful this looks. Okay, this is my handiwork, not Thomas's. Awesome. How should we start, Mark? How should we start? Should we start?
Well, we should probably talk a little bit more detail about Brighton and kind of what happened. Maybe sort of like what led up to the decision and that sort of stuff. And then I think that triggered the conversations that we started having after that as well, didn't it?
So I would say the first thing is to because I always feel like people are gonna talk about the decisions and try and guess why things hadn't happened, right? So the first one I want to clarify is we did change the format for Brighton. So I did a lot of rackets and we wrote about how I wanted it to be talks online and a lot more interactive in the room. So the response from that was not as high as I would want, but we were probably only two speakers off having a program. So we got enough people got the idea and submitted. So we did get enough submissions. We would have been perfectly fine to put on the event. So I don't want people thinking, oh, it's the change. No one responded as positively as like MOT would have hoped. So they're using other excuses. We're not. I still believe in the event, the format. Manchester or TestBash UK, as we'll come to, will be ran in the exact same way. So we are sticking to that. So it's not that. It was an email, so about probably 4 weeks ago now, because it has been a while. We didn't. I think again, a few things we could have shared this probably a few weeks earlier, but we were trying to really make 30 days of tools and test.bash as awesome as it has been. So we didn't want to derail what was happening by sharing the news about Brighton. But we got an email from Brighton. So context. The Clarendon Centre in Brighton were awesome. They rolled over our deposits and kept things progressing, which is great. Which is really we benefited from that. They emailed and said they've been suffering just as everyone else has with COVID, and that they were limiting their attendee numbers to, I think it was 150 or might have been 200, but over half of what we would normally be expecting for a test bash, and they were doing that for their own security because they were getting cancellations. They were having to turn around a lot of bookings and stuff like that. So they made it clear that this is now our new limit, and that made the Clarendon untenable for us. We can't really run a 200 person event. It's not financially sensible to run the plan we had wouldn't run as a 200-person event. And the other downside of why so answering why don't you just do a smaller event, we also had the whole room booked, like everything, we had the whole place. So again, like you've now got these massive rooms where you can only put a small number of attendees in. It just changes the format.
And that's like you're sharing a bit about the motivations for the changes later on. It's we've realised that it's about connection, it's about sort of sharing, and there's, like I said, there's sort of like those hallway conversations and stuff. So if that's immediately limited by the fact that we have less people to have those conversations in a wider space where there's sort of those like the serendipity sort of moments are going to happen less, I think that it doesn't feel like a TestBash, does it?
No. So that was the Clarendon Centre. As I said, they awesome people. I hope their plans change, and if we do go back to Brighton, I say if we do, we will go back to Brighton at some point. Hopefully we can go back there. So then, the next, I mentioned that we had limited options. So the next question would be, well, why don't you find another venue? And we did. We had a quick look, and I don't think people know the Brighton landscape. Brighton has this weird thing where there's lots of 150 place venues, and then there's like two between like 200 and like 800, and then there's like 3 or 4 like couple of thousand seat venues. Right? We are not a couple of thousand seat conference. So the cost of renting one of them and doing our normal TestBash, again, you'd end up financially losing money, which would run the risk of would put MOT at risk. So we couldn't really find a venue. Even if we had found a venue, this is another thing I want to stress, is we're still a shorter team at the moment. So Sarah Deary, my partner, came back to work this week, which is fantastic. So again, that's one person back after maternity. But we still have Diana and Heather on maternity leave, and they're having awesome times. They're enjoying it as they should. But that leaves the team less people on the team. So how are we meant to? We don't have enough capacity to now do a new venue. So anyone who's ever put on an event, a new venue is testing knowledge, right? Unknowns everywhere. Yeah. So many unknowns. To deal with them whilst trying to do all the things that we want to be doing, we can't do it.
Yeah, I think if we'd got the news maybe a few months earlier, there might have been the potential that we could react, and it might not have been in Brighton, but that sort of date might have been somewhere else. But it's that sort of combination. I mean, we were literally about to start our first sort of proper kick-off call. Let's get this all organised when we got the news. But like you said, Richard, it's a case of it was all right because there was a known quantity. Like we've been there before, we know the people, we know what we need to do. But if we're going completely fresh, it just needs that extra bit of research, which is just a lot when everyone's working so hard on everything else that we've been doing over the last few months as well.
And not just the staff, even attendees. People know the Clarendon. They don't need to be told, where things are, where the rooms are, where the auditorium is, or anything like that. Where the toilets are. Like, they know. Volunteers would know. Like, all the team who would be there all know. So a brand new venue. And again, we couldn't find one. But even if we had, that would have been a problem for us. Yeah. And then, then the final one would be move it. And the problem with moving it is the changes we've made in recent years we have new stable events. So TestBash Home, which we'll talk about, seems to be occupying, our June slot. And then we've still got TestBash Manchester, which is still booked in, and we've still got deposits rolled over from previous years. And these aren't small amounts of money. Like the deposit for the Lowry is nearly £30,000, right? That's a lot of money. If we don't run the event at the Lowry, they will just take our money. So we have to factor this into our decisions. So where would you move Brighton to? There isn't a space to move it to that gives us the 6 months we would need of everyone being back, because 6 months puts you in June, which is, as Ed mentioned, online home kind of time. Manchester's at the end of September, and then that's it. You're out for the year. So moving it was not an option either. So it sucks. I hate it. I hated writing that. Well, I didn't write it. Mark wrote it. But I hated seeing the word cancelled again. It's just unpleasant. But
Yeah.
it is the best decision for MOT and the health of MOT financially as a community as well. I have to make tough decisions, and this is one of them. But as I mentioned in the messages, or Mark translated for us, we've thought about some other ideas and thought what's important, and hopefully people might like what we have.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's for me, it's not a great thing to do. I was really looking forward to it. I was really looking forward to doing another AIT as well, like in person. I've missed
Yeah.
in-person training and stuff, but I like, given the things that we're talking about, it is kind of exciting as well, because it's a case of, rather than have this hangover us while we're trying the new things, it's a clean break.
Yep.
So we should probably talk about UK first.
Okay.
And why, because like I said, it's Manchester, but now it's UK. Like, what's the name change? What's that related to?
Sure. So a few things that MOT have changed in the last few years, as many other places and on probably everyone else's lives as well as businesses. And obviously with no income from events, which I think if anyone's been following, the recent years of MOT, we were 70% reliant on income from events. Which is incredibly high. 2 years ago, I remember sharing news and like I'm surprised I've got hair left. We were so I was suddenly overnight. I was like, what the hell are we going to do? And
drawing. Yeah,
we've pivoted, we've reacted, and we've now got MOT into a healthy financial place without any income from physical events. Obviously, we've had online events, and so that then leads to, as mentioned, TestBash UK. And if we're not as reliant on events anymore, then, do we need to keep kind of, as Jerry would say, things are the way they are because they got that way, right? So we've always had 2 UK TestBashes, and that was kind of became the norm, and it was useful for MOT because of, attendance as it was, as well as the income that came from them. But now MOT's financial models are slightly different. We're not as reliant on the income. So given that we've changed, we're now in a position where I basically said to myself, can Ministry of Testing sustain 2 UK conferences? Do we need to try and sustain 2 UK conferences? And the answer was no. I'd say I don't need the money, right? We would love the income of having them, right? But it's not I don't want to become reliant on income from events again. It's a dangerous game to be in with things like COVID around now. Yes, vaccinations are high and things seem to be staying open, but it could change at any time. So
it's not just COVID as well. There's still so many unknowns with Brexit as well, in terms of how TestBash is an international conference, right? Regardless of where it is, we always have people from different countries coming to speak, and it's still an unknown. So to put a lot of our eggs into a basket where we don't know if maybe people get turned away at the border, or how that sort of stuff works at the moment. I think that adds to the pressure as well, along with the sort of the pandemic stuff as well.
Yeah. So that side of it, as in do we need it, is a question we're asking ourselves. Do we, does the community need it? Does MOT need it? Trading off these answers. And I got to the conclusion that one more piece of information that is actually quite useful. Brighton is, some would argue, right, the home of TestBash, right? The answer is yes, it is, right? It was kind of, Cambridge was the first, but Brighton became
could be a pet in your that's where I find it's Cambridge.
Brighton became the first, but then, Manchester came along and just, raised the bar 1,000 feet in the air, right? Manchester, best TestBash out there by far. Rosie won't watch this, so it's all right. But
such rampant bias.
Yeah. But to be more serious about that, Rosie is obviously now not as involved in MOT as she used to be. She's still part of our company, obviously part of our board. But she's got a new full-time job. She's absolutely smashing it over there at Orbit and doing great things. So we don't have a presence in terms of people and staff in Brighton. So you've all been to TestBashes, or all of you been, but you've all been to conferences or seen conferences. There's boxes and boxes of swag and materials and printouts and t-shirts, all sorts of magic stuff, has to go somewhere. So at Brighton, it used to go to Rosie's house. We'd take over her arts and crafts and the kids' gaming room, and then we'd obviously bring it down to the venue. We don't have that in Brighton anymore, so that's another thing that's very important for us to consider. And at the moment, we're not in a position to go and find someone new to do that. Obviously, there's awesome people in Brighton, we know, but again, it takes time for someone to go and arrange that. Whereas Manchester currently, I've just got an office not far from Manchester. I live not far from Manchester. Diana lives in Manchester, who's our event boss, who will be back in January. So that's more manageable at the moment. But what it enabled me to do is we've had inquiries. So this is where I think it gets exciting. We've had messages for the last 5 years. When's TestBash coming to Nottingham? When's TestBash coming to Glasgow? When's TestBash coming to Leeds? And the answer was we can't, because we've already got 2 UT conferences. The risk of a third was, how are we going to sell that? How are we going? When's it going to be? How are we going to market it? How are we going to promote it? How are we going to find speakers? Like, there's just no time. We're basically saturating our own market. So the answer was always no. But what I want to do now with TestBash UK is move it, and I want to move it to start with to our awesome meetup locations. And we're going to talk more about the meetup shortly. But I want to move it to our awesome meetup locations. So I don't know where yet. I'm not making any promises about the order. But absolutely would love to go to Scotland, have a TestBash Scotland or TestBash Glasgow or Edinburgh or wherever it is we decide to go. Leeds has been absolutely having an awesome meetups going, and then obviously Milton Keynes have been bought books as they rebranded, I believe, as they've been doing awesome. There's Cambridge. There's lots of meetups who were really, really active, and they will become active again, I'm sure, because we've got lots of plans around that. So that's the plan that's why we're rebranding it UK. So in UK next year will be Manchester, because we have venues booked, we have deposits that are going to make it a lot more comfortable for MOT to put on an event, with the risk of it being cancelled, out of our control, or perhaps not enough people are keen to go back, to a big conference yet. There's still lots of risks around putting events on. So yeah, TestBash UK, Manchester next year, 2023, who knows? But it will be a meetup location. That's what we want to do. So for the rolling years, and that's what I mean, we will end up back at Brighton. Absolutely, we will end up back at Brighton. But we could end up coming back to two UK events a year, right? Eventually. But right now, I want to remove the doubt. I want to remove the risk. I'm going to stick to one. I'm going to rename it UK, and then we'll see what happens in 2023.
Yeah. And then, so you mentioned the meetups. So then there is the fun stuff, which is TestBash World.
Yes.
Which we're at risk of really building a rod for our own backs based on what we say in the next few minutes. But I think it's going to be awesome.
So this is the one I actually am really excited about, and it's an idea we've actually had for a few years, but never really, again, not been in a position to do, because 3 years ago, we had 7 TestBashes in a year. Like, the effort and workload was just intense. So we had this idea, but we were never able to do it. So I'll tell you the idea, and I'll tell you how we got there. So what TestBash World will be is, for next year, it's going to replace TestBash Home. So there won't be a TestBash Home in next year. However, you'll realise TestBash World's kind of the same. So basically, TestBash World is TestBash Home. You can watch wherever you like, but we're also going to have meetups at all our meetup locations around the world at the time that TestBash World is on. So you're going to be able to either tune in from home or work, or you're going to be able to go to your nearest MOT meetup and watch the conference there with all your local testing peers, and tune in from there. And then, a bit like Eurovision-esque, I guess, we're going to tune in to all these meetup locations on the live stream. So we're going to let's go live to MOT Manila. Let's go live to MOT Wellington. Let's go live to MOT in Portland. That's the plan, to basically bring the huge global community together. And this has the potential to be, like a 5,000, 10,000 person conference. Like, this could be insanely big. But it's not about the numbers. What it is about giving you a comfortable place to get together. So the reason why TestBash World is also a thing that I'm excited about is, I think a lot of people are still feeling a little bit uneasy about going out into the world. So Mark, you went to a beer festival, I think, was it last
I
week?
did,
Yeah,
yeah.
for the first time,
That
kind of.
was that was scary. Like,
Yep.
genuinely felt I couldn't quite work out if I was anxious or excited. I think probably both, but definitely was on edge when I first sort of got there. The beer helped, um, but yeah, I imagine, and I'm someone who's kind of chomping at the bit to get out again. So I imagine other people are going to have stronger reservations, stronger concerns and stuff. And
Yep.
things are different in different countries as well. Like we are we're very privileged to be where we are in terms of our vaccine rollout,
Yep.
and our attitude towards lockdown. Try and keep all of that out of that. But other places are going to be less fortunate. Other places are in different phases of things. Their sort of way in which they're tackling the pandemic is going to differ as well. So yeah, this offers that opportunity for both you as the individual to choose how you're going to engage, but it also allows you to. It's going to allow us to work within the contexts that are all around the world in terms of, but still make it exciting, fun, and engaging.
Yeah. So I think I missed one important aspect actually that I was meant to need to explain as well. Like, so the new format I mentioned for TestBash about talks online and doing different things face to face. I don't think the conference world should go back to spending 3/4 of your day sat in silence watching a talk. I think that's a waste of people getting together. So I think we need now to get back together for conversations, for networking, just for hanging out, doing interactive activities and things like that. Things that are very hard to do online. However, if that's the case, as CosMOT is as big as it is, we don't need a conference to do that. We have over 100 meetups around the world that are all jumping at the bit, to get active again. So we're going to put a lot of our effort into next year into getting those meetups back up and running again. Have a regular schedule for them, have regular events for them, and again, help them as much as we can to be an awesome meetup. So the energy and effort that we would put into running 7 test bashes, we'll put a bit of that into the meetup organisers, and again to give them a huge boost. So if we have that presence, we can now run more meetups, which will give you a place to go back and socialise again. See if you're comfortable in that space, but you're doing it in your own hometown. You're not flying or travelling to Brighton, being in the conference for a few hours and being like, nah, this is not for me. And you're kind of stuck in Brighton. So we're going to hopefully give a way that people can build up to that. And then, as I said, that leads to TestBash World. And I just love the idea that we can stream value from centrally, as in, let's say, here, MOTHQ, right? We can stream talks from here. We can give out instructions from here. But you're going to be in your awesome local meetup where you can then watch the talks, tune in for Q&A. We can go live to you and say hello. And then I think the final exciting bit about it is my plan is to send some of the speakers to some of the meetups. So if we have 12 speakers, instead of them traveling to a conference, we're going to send them to your meetup, send them to your city. Maybe it's all open yet. Maybe they might do a few training courses while they're there or something like that. But the main reason we're thinking is they're going to get to come to your meetup, be sat in the audience with you, and they can do the live Q&A from the city that they're in. And then obviously you then get to network with the speaker and talk to the speaker and so forth and so forth. It will still be 24 hours. We're going to travel around the world. We're going to go to the actual meetup venues. Again, we're going to help them organise that. There'll be financial things we can do to help as well in terms of like venue hire. We'll be able to do things with sponsors and things like that. But it will be completely free to go and watch at your local meetup, and then it will be probably pro or ticketed if you just want to tune in yourself, just like it was for home for the last couple of years. But I think it's going to be ace. I'm not a Eurovision fan, but I know there's some testing people in the community who love Eurovision. But I just love the idea of being right. Let's go live to MOT whatever, and just tuning in and seeing the host there with the all the attendees in the background. Again, just having a good time. And like I said, we'll need to work out how we do it properly yet. It's all it's still high level idea, but I think it'd be great.
It's gonna be great. So yeah, a lot of work for us, but I think we're quite excited about it. Um, and yeah, you'll hear more as probably in the new year as we sort of ramp down for the holidays. But we've still got things to do with 30 days and Test.Bash that's just been, which was really awesome and a huge success. But yeah, we'll be getting ready for these events in the coming months. Should
I
we
think
mention something about? So you mentioned on Twitter about the whole ticket access for UK as well.
Yeah, so if I just before I do that, I just stress though that's kind of what we under the umbrella of TestBash. So
Mm,
Manchester, UK, hosted in Manchester will be the physical one. TestBash World will be our big online TestBash. However, we will have probably another 3, 4, 5, who knows, online conferences. But whether they'll be branded as TestBash yet or slightly different, we don't know. So we're not going to
mm,
say that that's going to be the case. But there will be multiple online conferences throughout the year that will have certain themes and formats, which again is another opportunity for us all to get together. But in terms of like the TestBash brand and name, that's what we intend to do. So for TestBash UK, we will be emailing all our credit holders first. They will have first dibs on grabbing tickets for TestBash UK. Then it will go to pro members. Then it will go to the wider industry, the wider community. And again, that's just prioritization. Probably share more numbers. We have a lot of credit at the moment. We've not been in a position to refund people, and we're still not. So I think we've been quite good in rolling it over. A lot of companies we've had deals with have just cut us off and kind of said sorry, no good. We've had a few who have been able to refund, which is again a position that they're in. But we're rolling it over, so credit holders will be emailed with what options you have to spend your money on, and as I said, you will get priority to TestBash UK. And things won't change next year. Like I know Mark will. I like to always chuck a few things in here and there and just say, we can turn it around. But regarding TestBash next year, because of all the awesome work we've done this year, growing pro, 99-minute workshops, online TestBashes, things with our annual partners and sponsors, and even just changes to the website and just generally trying to improve a lot of what we do. We don't have the desire or the capacity to do more TestBashes yet. I
yeah.
would love in the future to head back to New Zealand, Australia, Netherlands, Germany, America, absolutely. But until everything else is stabilised, we're going to stick to Manchester, stick to the UK, where we know the market, we know the audience, we know the government, we know the rules, and basically ease our way back in. But as I mentioned, we will utilise our meetup networks to give us an opportunity to all connect and meet on a truly global scale. And I think it has the potential to be an incredible 24 hours. And I'm a visualization person. I can see it being amazing, but let's wait and see.
Yes.
So I'm going to stay on the stream.
Definitely.
Mark has to go.
Yeah. I was just going to say, definitely a few rods there.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. But yes, we should leave it there.
Well, I'm going to stay. So if there's anyone watching who has questions, ping them to me, and I'll stay on the stream for a little bit. So if you have any questions at all, ping them in the chat or tweet me or Slack me or wherever it is you get hold of me, and I'll answer them on the stream. But I'll give it a few minutes, see if there is any. But yeah, I'll let you go, Mark.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and
No
we'll see you all soon. Bye.
See you soon, Mark. Tell you what, it's tough sometimes. So, there's quite a few people watching, so I'll just give it a minute or so just to see if there is any questions that anyone has. And if not, I'll probably start a thread on the club, and that way I can do another stream or another AMA kind of session. If people do have any specific questions they would love me to answer. Doesn't look like it. Awesome. Well, in that case, as I said, we'll be writing more about this, trying to put it down a bit more coherently than I was able to do myself. But yeah, hopefully again you understand the reasons. I'm excited. Things are always going to continue to change, but hopefully you can see we're doing our best. We're doing what we think the community needs and wants, at the same time balancing that off with the health of MOT. And I feel like so far judgment has been good. I've been able to keep the team together. Didn't have to furlough anyone. So hopefully the analysis and the thinking and the critical thinking and all those awesome testing skills that I get to apply to the CEO boss level will work out. But I'm excited. I think it's a good plan, and hopefully we can all see each other and get together and enjoy ourselves at TestBash World and TestBash UK. All right, bye everybody.